Hello there, I am Randy Feltface, one of your virtual hosts. And who better to introduce a panel with the animated cast of a satirical news TV show than me? It's 2020, people. This is the new normal. Tuning Out the News is exec produced by Stephen Colbert and lampoons top news stories and interviews real-world guests. During the show, if you have any questions for either the animated news anchors or the actors who play them, you can ask them on the show page on the festival website. So here it is. Enjoy the Tuning Out the News panel presented by CBS All Access.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Just for Laughs panel for the hit animated series Tuning Out the News on CBS All Access. I'm Olivia Nuzzi and I'm the Washington correspondent for New York Magazine as well as a frequent recipient of Rudy Giuliani's butt dials. Tonight I will be moderating a panel with 4 of the show's animated stars, followed by a live Q&A with the animated characters. Yes, you can ask a question to animated characters and they will answer you in real time. So please get your questions ready. And we'll finish up by talking with the 3 writer-producers behind the scenes. But first, here are some highlights from the first season of Tuning Out the News, and yes, these guests actually did appear on the show.
I'm James Smartwood and welcome to the smartest debate on television. Oh, bug flew in my mouth. Now, in Biden's defense, you set a trap by letting him talk.
That is okay. That's the best. That is the best excuse I've heard for Joe Biden.
Jeffrey Epstein owned an island in the Caribbean called Little St. James. Have you ever been there? And if so, don't you hate it when Prince Andrew's ass knocks over your drink?
Please, you have to support Biden.
If you vote for Joe Biden, you can do whatever you want to Brian.
You can use me as a toilet.
Now that the voters have loaded you onto the vessel from your district to the sacred halls of power, there are certain oaths you must take.
I shall never support universal health care, only access to affordable health care.
Just like Old Faithful, the cocaine pressure inside Donald Trump Jr. becomes so great that it shoots up into the sky.
Wow!
I cannot be the first campaign manager in history to lose a Kennedy campaign in Massachusetts! Look, a voter! I'll get him!
Make them mad and they will set your business on fire.
Is man really capable of altering the course of an infectious disease through crowd control?
You tweeted, "You are pathetic little whores satisfied with crumbs and head pats." Rick, when was the exact moment you realized those pathetic little whores could be tapped for money?
I've been part of the Trump COVID vaccine trial, and as you can see, everything is working great.
We need more women who have jailed other women in the White House.
If we defund the police, who would be stationed at high schools hitting on juniors and seniors?
Everything you all are describing is absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you.
Now, I don't want to seem like a hokey idealist, but can we look forward to a day where people will take the biggest imaginable on your grave?
Take the what on the grave?
Just giant dumps, big poops.
Do you guys have any idea what this Intelligence Committee report found?
Of course not. Of course not. I'm not sure that our founding fathers intended for a minority of 41 to have that much power.
Oh yeah, the founding fathers were dead set on minorities not having any power.
Before RBG died, she put her backpack on her seat so that no one would sit there.
In my reporting, I don't have anything related to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's backpack.
I'm gonna win a Pulitzer, I'm gonna win a Pulitzer, I'm gonna win a Pulitzer!
Welcome back. Joining me now are the stars of Tuning Out the News. First up is the host of the more liberal-minded show, Virtue Signal, Kylie Weaver.
Thank you, Olivia. I believe in visibility for women, and that really starts with me.
And the host of the conservative news show, Hot Take, Tyler Templeton.
What the fuck? No entrance music? Fine, I'll do it myself. My name is Tyler. Sorry.
And we also have big news political analyst who's not afraid to say nothing at all, Tori Hughes.
Thank you, and/or you're welcome.
And Princeton professor of history and governance, Dr. Ike Bloom.
Indubitably.
First, I want to talk about journalism at Tuning Out the News. Talk about each of your roles at the Tuning Out News Network.
Sure, I guess I'll go first because I'm the loudest. I'm a host of Hot Take. I report the facts straight from my bloated, alcoholic neck. I love Trump like my dad, even though my dad is a fucking asshole. I hate my dad! Give me back my Mazda, if you're watching. Kylie?
I bet you're expecting me to say my role is in the kitchen, right? Well, actually, that's wrong because I'm the host of my own show and it's called Virtue Signal. So maybe re-examine what you think a journalist looks like. Now, I'm so sorry, but if it's okay with everyone, I think it's high time we heard from my sister, Tori.
I'm a political analyst. I watch CNN and MSNBC and figure out how to switch all the words around and sound like my own.
And at this point, I would also like to say something. A word of introduction. My name is Ike Bloom, as has been established, and I'm a historian, which means I tell viewers how the past resembles the modern world, which resembles nothing we've ever seen before.
And now, what is a typical news day like at Tuning Out the News?
Roll up, tell my producers they don't know shit, smile for the camera, freestyle on the ride home, modern warfare, microwave sausage for dinner, and then I go find someplace to sleep.
Rise with the sun, raise a little hell, repeat.
As soon as I get to my desk, I look up a nature story and loudly shout, "These animals sure are cute, but they could never do the news." I do that so no one starts thinking I'm replaceable.
Well, I'm a complex man with a plethora of thoughts, but nobody on this show seems to know what an historian does, so they tend to treat me like a human Google. It's a lot of telling Tyler I can't diagnose his rash.
Tell me what it is!
Now, some cable news anchors focus on reporting the facts, while others editorialize, while others blur the line. Where do you draw the line?
Well, first let's get some definitions out, right? Okay? Reporting is when you say, I shot my neighbor's dog, okay? Editorializing is when you say, I shot my neighbor's stupid fucking dog for biting the tires on my Hummer. And we should all agree with that statement, so, I editorialize. Kylie?
Yeah, we need to be clear to audiences where we're editorializing, but here's how I distinguish the two. Editorializing makes me go, yes, while reporting makes me go, okay.
Now, who's the best in the field right now, in your opinion?
Oh my God, I wouldn't say me. I honestly think of myself as a total dumpster fire, but like a lot of other people would think that it's me, I guess. I don't know. Ew, I'm sorry, that felt so weird. God, that felt so weird, Olivia. I'm so sorry. I hate the attention.
Best in the field? Conor McGregor.
Chuck Todd is simply electric. In the field of saying absolutely nothing of insight, Chuck is the one to beat right now.
This is a fantastic question. I think I'm going to have to go with...
Oh my God, Dr. Bloom, stop. Do not say me. Okay, don't say me. I can tell you're going with that. Don't say me. Because when I get attention, I go into an itty-bitty ball.
Now, from good night and good luck to that's the way it is, many news anchors have employed a signature sign-off from in their broadcasts. What sign-off would each of you like to be remembered by?
She already done had hers as.
I like, hey, Doris Kearns Goodwin, go to hell.
Time will tell. We'll see. Anything that implies that preventing tragedy is outside anyone's control, and therefore the news needs more safe punditry like mine.
And for me, after every episode of Hot Take, I always say, that's all from me, it's time to suck yourself off at home. But I guess they always stop recording before I say that. It's missed.
Now to the general election. What has been the biggest challenge of covering 2020?
Well, with 27 million Americans lacking health care, 14 million lacking jobs, and all of us experiencing the greatest global health crisis in modern history, journalists have more responsibility than ever to hold the powerful to account by noting that their hands are small, their hair is weird, and their skin is orange.
You know, every broadcast I space out and suddenly hear my name. Then I have to come up with an answer that could apply to any question in the universe. And I have to say, I've never been called out on it.
Now, is the election coverage too biased, or is it not biased enough?
Yeah, too biased towards liberals. 90% of the stories out there about Trump are bad. Where's the articles about how good it is that he let hundreds of thousands of Americans die?
It's very important to stick with the facts. For example, if the president sets off a nuclear weapon in California, we need the discipline to keep the headline, Trump has problematic views on whether California should bake alive.
You know, I personally think you can find bias in everything. This morning, did I drive to the tobacconist to get my collection of brass smoking pipes cleaned? Or did I drive away from a hit and run? It depends on your leanings.
Now, a lot of international pundits thought that the presidential debate was embarrassing for the United States. Do you agree?
What? Who said that? I'll dox their grandparents.
It was so humiliating. We need to work harder at pushing our historic dysfunction into quiet corners until one day we have a dictator president and ask, how the heck did we end up here?
It's been several hundred years since the United States experienced humiliation as a negative. In the years hence, America humiliating itself on the world stage has become a naughty game from which it derives its last decadent pleasure.
Look, America, we can't let other countries decide how we should feel about ourselves. If our country wants to be a hot mess, just own it, girl.
What are some of the must-watch races of this election?
I am interested in Amy McGrath's race against McConnell in Kentucky. She's a boss-ass bitch with a 0% chance of winning, and liberal donors keep sending her money. That kind of blind, senseless faith in a woman is my kind of feminism, honey.
And let me tell you what, I got a close eye on the race for alderman in my district. My ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend is running, and if he is defeated, I will throw a dance party, and there will be Jell-O shots shaped like Troy Aikman. Let's do it. Fuck that guy.
The main Senate race where Democrat Sarah Gideon leads incumbent Republican Susan Collins. But to be clear, it has nothing to do with me being nervous that the tides are turning on people with no principles saying whatever they need just to get a paycheck.
When we look back at the election, what will the narrative be?
You think looking back at this election will be legal? Wrongo. All there's going to be is a song that every children sings every morning called "Thank You for Defeating Antifa, Trump Father," before they go down into the mines with us.
Perhaps the worst president in American history, Donald J. Trump, a man responsible for the deaths of untold hundreds of thousands by committing election fraud and welcoming foreign interference, attempted to steal a second term. But then the nation came together through a shared vision for hope and justice behind Joseph R. Biden, who was soundly defeated.
Now, moving on to the debates, I noticed none of you are moderating any of them. What topics do you want to see brought up at the debates?
First of all, Olivia, I have to say I would have loved to moderate, but I just get so tired. They wanted me to, but I would have been really tired, and I had to do self-care. Now, moving on to your question, you mentioned topics, and I hate that word. Honey, we don't want topics. We want zingers. We crave zingers, babe. Zing, zing, zing. We love.
And I want to know how to get a boat without any money, so please help.
All I know is if either candidate doesn't say how government is like a business, I will lose my shit.
Now, if you could ask Trump or Biden a question, what would it be?
I've never really thought about this question before, but I guess, if I had to ask Trump something, I would say, God, Trump, can you please look into the camera and tell my dad I turned out nothing like he said I would? Got a six-pack on the front and the back.
And do you think these debates will even matter?
Yes, 1,000 times yes. If Joe Biden can come up with just the right clapback, I think he can sway all those voters watching on their phones while plowing their trucks through BLM protests.
I think they would matter if we went back to the format adopted in the election of 1840 between Martin Van Buren and William Henry Harrison. You see, at those debates, the moderators were equipped with a whistle.
Wrong! Debates won't matter unless it's produced by Dana White, and in the end, the two shirtless candidates hug each other while crying, and then John Roberts in a tuxedo comes out, and then he put the crown on president and says, here's the crown.
Now, looking ahead to election night, what is your prediction? Will this election be decided on election night a week later when mail-in ballots are all totaled, or a month later by the Supreme Court?
This election was decided in September of 2019, the minute Trump posted a tweet mocking climate activist and fierce queen rising Greta Thunberg. Whether you were a Democrat or a far-right billionaire, everyone saw that and thought, okay, this is beyond the pale.
Wrong. Once again, this thing ain't over till Trump wins, everybody. It has to be that way. It has to. Mom!
Olivia, what do you think will happen?
I have no idea, and I am always wrong. So I try not to make predictions.
Then that's what I also think.
In a sense, it's already been decided, ever since America's post-war economic boom began to contract in the mid-'70s, and the self-serving elite class began our managed decline towards austere, authoritarian oligarchy. But yes, once every 4 Novembers, the people decide just how fast we all circle the drain.
Fuck off, Dr. Bloom. Our best days are ahead of us.
All right, well, this week we had the shocking news that the president and the first lady were diagnosed with COVID-19. How do you think this will affect the race?
Olivia, this is a trap for the Democrats. They might be very tempted to gloat right now, but a bunch of alt-right trolls who reveled in the death of RBG and laughed at liberals who said the virus was real told me it's in poor taste to gloat right now, and obviously we need to take those concerns in good faith.
I think voters are going to look to see how people are reacting to this news on both sides, digest that information, and then make the brave decision to vote for whoever they were going to before.
I think Trump announced this COVID diagnosis to distract the media from the story he doesn't want to talk about, the fact that he got COVID.
Of course he got COVID. That way he can take it down from the inside. He's going to find the Queen COVID, get some dirt on her, burn her in the post, and then the only time we're going to see her again is when the paparazzi snaps photos of her walking her dog without makeup. Freaking alpha as hell, that man.
Okay. People like to repeat that this is the most important election of our lifetimes. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, before this, all politicians were good, and after this, they will be good again.
There was a meat shortage this year, so you tell me, Olivia.
By saying it is the most important election of our lifetime, I make it clear it's more important than ever to put me on air. So I will always say whatever is currently happening is the most important event of our lifetime.
Of our lifetime? No. I personally still have several decades ahead of me, and I believe each American election will be more horrifying than the next.
All right, let's talk about that insane interview with Sheriff Joe Arpaio. You asked him some extremely tough questions, but what questions did you not get to ask him that you wanted to ask?
So I actually didn't get to interview him, but if I had the chance, rather than gotchas, I would have tried to use the opportunity to appeal to his humanity and say, Mr. Arpaio, I know this hate stuff isn't really you, and try to have a breakthrough.
I wanted to ask him if he was pissed that he didn't think of the human centipede first. I mean, when I saw that thing, I know I was. Still am. Fuck!
I'd have asked him if he can recommend a good mechanic, but I ask everyone that. My sedan is trash.
And that concludes the moderated portion. When we come back, these animated characters will be taking questions. To ask a question, click the Ask a Question button on the show page of the festival website. But first, here's an exclusive, never-before-seen clip of Tuning Out the News' interview with Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Now, we've rebooked you once, and yet you still wanted to come
Why
on the
not?
show. You love being on TV.
I'm a full.
Would you ever go on a show called America's Proudest Horsefuckers?
I didn't give myself the name. I'm proud of being America's toughest sheriff. It's better being America's nicest sheriff.
Oh, when we said horsefuckers, you thought of yourself. Totally honest, non-Freudian mistake.
Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much to New York Magazine's Olivia Nuzzi for sharing her time during what has been an insane week. Yes, girl, you did that. And now it's my turn. So as promised, we are ready to answer your questions live in real time. Okay, let's go to the first question here. Okay, Leah from Bayonne, French, asked, who has been your favorite guest? Leah, okay, I have to say, my favorite guest, definitely Julian Castro. He was our first guest whose nipples we saw, but not our last for sure. Hello, Paul Krugman. If you're out there, come back on the show, honey, and let's see those nips.
Yeah, we do got to get Paul back on here for real. But if I did have to say here, my favorite guest was Matt Schlapp. Come on, the guy's a gentleman and a scholar. I mean, listen, Matt Schlapp's wife worked for Trump while he was lobbying for the White House to use Abbott Labs COVID test, and the White House ended up going for it. Come on, Matt Schlapp is baller of the millennium. After that interview, I had to chug about 10 pints of mercury after that just to come down from that interview. I was so Rolling Stones up.
You know, I was just wild about Harry Reid. It always raises the stakes when you're not sure if he'll make it through the entire interview. Dr. Bloom?
Yes, as for my answer to the question proposed, I must say John Meacham. I like to keep an eye on my enemies. I don't know what he's up to, but I will not rest until I, or at least my team of unpaid graduate students, have churned out more historical biographies than
Yes. Thank you
Nietzsche.
all. Okay, next question. Question here from Olivia in Brooklyn. Okay, Lena Dunham vibes. Her question is, why do you think Joe Arpaio was so confused by you all? Okay, yes, I do have to say he was so confused. It was so cute. He's such a small bean. But I have to say, like, probably, imprisoning immigrants for decades is just exhausting. It's not Pelotoning for 3 hours every morning, but, it's still pretty tiring. Tori?
It's totally understandable. I wouldn't rule out that it was disorienting to see people of color on the news for him.
Well, hold on a second. I mean, I don't think that it's fair to call it confusion. This guy, he first of all, Joe Arpaio speaks the language of the desert. He does not speak. Asking Joe Arpaio to speak our type of English is like seeing if a Lamborghini can cook toast. Let's be honest. I mean, if we could understand dehydrated lizard speech from the desert, it would be clear as day, no arguments from the snowflakes, that Joe Arpaio is our day's Shakespeare.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for that perspective. Okay,
Anytime.
we now have a question from Shondor in Brooklyn, and this one is actually for Tyler. Look at you, girl. Go ahead. Okay, so Tyler, this question is, if Biden wins the election decisively, how will you cope with America losing its greatness?
Ha! Hold on. You think Trump is going to leave? Hell no. If you take him, he will shapeshift and he will return, just like about half the people in my neighborhood did.
Thank you for that perspective, Tyler. Love does Trump hate. Now, moving on. Okay, we have a question from Des in Brooklyn. If you could host any other news show, which would it be? Tori.
I would take that one. Meet the press any day, not even just Sunday. I'd love to try on Chuck Todd's 6-size tassel loafers.
Yes, I love a loafer. Okay, we have another question here from Brenna in NYC. That's New York City. Who do you think was better at moderating, Susan Page or Chris Wallace? Okay, I honestly have to say Susan Page freaking rocked it, honey. I mean, people say that like a woman cannot do that job of sitting behind a desk and like begging the candidates to listen to you when you tell them to stop talking. And she did that, honey. Go on with your bad self, Susan Page. Tyler?
I mean, they both made it almost unwatchable. What the hell? What is Chris Wallace's problem? Chris Wallace needs to be an enemy of the state. He has done wrong, and we need to make a top 10 list of all the most effed up people in America. Guess what 1 through 9 are? Chris Wallace. And guess what the last one's for? It's anybody who doesn't think that Gran Torino deserves 100 million Oscars.
Yes, Clint Eastwood is bae. Tori, what's your take here?
You know what? Honestly, no one should be moderating these things, and no one should be speaking. People should come up, voters should decide for themselves wordlessly. What else are we going to base this election on?
That is a really good point. Now, I mean, honestly, okay, let's move on to another question. I could answer that, but it really honestly makes me too upset. Okay, how should the media prepare to cover two men possibly claiming victory on election night? This question is from Rajat in NYC. Tori.
Well, listen, we have a plan. It all comes through preparation.
Pepperoni.
Calmly walk our audience through what's happening before smashing right into our Civil War II kickoff graphics package.
I'll say this. If I happen to be the first guy on TV to say history will remember this night, I will die a happy man. End of answer.
Right. I mean, I think that we should, here's how it goes. We assess the facts here, we interrogate the data, and then we launch into a full character assassination of Joe Biden and his entire bloodline.
Yes, thank you, Tyler. Okay, new question from Rachel in NYC. Could each of you describe what is currently happening under your desks right now? Okay, I guess I'll go. I have to say the bottom half of my body is absolutely going buck wild on a yoga ball right now. I'm just kind of a fitness addict. So that's where I'm at. Tori.
You know, notes from the other shows on what to say on this show. It's a tiny little whiteboard.
Oh, that's so cute. Tyler?
Well, as we all know, I have a bit of a, the sky window type thing in Chicago on the big tower.
Yes.
So under my desk, I have a window like that, and there's a super highway that has 80 lanes, and there's no rules. It's an American Autobahn that I'm working on.
Okay, that sounds like an amazing photo op, Tyler. That rules. Ike.
Well, underneath my desk at the current moment, what can I say? There's various oxygen molecules there.
Oh.
Come to think of it, I never really leave the set. I live there, so I have a device that pumps my blood throughout my body.
Wow, that is really interesting. Okay, new question. Okay, this one comes from Brittany in Tallahassee. Love that. Question, who would be your dream guest? Okay, I have to say, it's got to be, for me, it's got to be Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, why did she do all of that? Like, what does she know? And what's a fun night in for her?
A dream guest for me, I would love to invite on the Princeton librarian who would not allow me to reduce my late fines by returning other books early. If you're watching right now, why? I ask you, why?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my dream guest, I guess that would have to be Jesus, right? The man himself. I'm kidding. That guy is a complete loser. I'd have to pick Donald Trump, the real savior of all times and space. I'd really love to have Donald Trump on and ask him, Mr. President Donald Trump, which of my organs can I send you for Christmas?
Okay, next question. What career advice would you give your past self? Honestly, I would tell myself to do exactly what I did. Break up the boys' club, even if that means breaking up the girls' club too. Yes, I sued the Boys and Girls Club of America after they rejected my after-school program, which was an unpaid internship at my media startup, Quibi, with a K, which stands for, yes, Kylie Bites. Tori?
Oh, Tori. I would go back and say to myself, you can only say it's anyone's guess so many times before they fire you as the weather girl.
And I would say, Tyler, not all job interviews are open carry.
Yes, thank you. That is all really good perspective. Thank you all so much. Okay, I believe this is our last question. Aw, sad face. Okay, let's go out on something really awesome. Question here from Jeremy. Oh my God, from Chicago. Okay, what is the best way for a citizen to stay informed? Okay, I have to take this one. Don't just follow people who post social awareness memes, okay? Follow people who also put links to change.org petitions in their captions.
Local news is so important, and that's why I call my local news station and ask the receptionist if she can give me a summary.
It's really quite simple. Just peruse thousands of source documents and other first-hand evidence while recognizing your own historiographical context.
Sure. Now, hey, if you really want to be informed and not be a sheep, come into my vape shop and what we're talking about. And if you can't make it in because of COVID or whatever, fake, you can tune into our live stream, www.twitchtylertv.com/beefjerky/100% men's rights vape shop.com.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you all, and thank you, me. Okay, you guys, that is all the time we have with the live animated characters from Tuning Out the News. Thank you so much to my co-anchors, Dr. Ike Bloom, Tyler Templeton, and Tori Hughes.
Kylie, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You are welcome. Now, up next, we have 3 writer-producers behind the series. Okay, work. But first, we asked the writers of Tuning Out the News, what was your favorite joke that aired, and what was your favorite joke that did not air? Take a look.
And now, we ask the writers of Tuning Out the News, what is your favorite joke that made air?
Hi, I'm Maureen Monahan. One of my favorite jokes that made it to air was a line that Brittany pitched for the Rick Wilson segment where we were going in on the Lincoln Project, and his tendency to keep calling Trump a bitch.
He's normally very, very much the robust, strapping man who stoically takes any adversity, or he's a whining bitch.
So the line that Brittany pitched about this was my character Sarah Sabo responding to him and saying, "Yes, he is a bitch. That is the biggest insult, comparing someone to a woman. I hate us."
Hi, my name is Brittany Van Horn. My favorite joke was when Maureen as Kylie asked a serving congressman, Congressman Meeks, if he could feel her power radiating through the screen, and when he said yes, she clarified that.
And now I just want to clarify that when I say power, I did mean horniness.
Oh, well, I didn't see all of that.
I'm Naima. I'm a supervising writer. My favorite joke that made the air was when we were interviewing Joe Arpaio and talking about defecating on his grave, and someone wrote a amazing joke.
I'm gonna start saving up now for my bouquet of doo-doos.
My name is Bob Powers. My favorite joke that aired was a bit that Hot Take did when they made Grover Norquist participate in the segment called
Let's Watch a Poor Person Drown in Our Heads.
Yeah.
They all closed their eyes along with Grover, and then they asked Grover what his poor person was doing while drowning, and Grover pretty much said he's
trying to get through life with high gas taxes, high sales taxes, high property taxes.
He's probably more worried about the drowning.
My name is Ike Ufomadu. A favorite joke that has made it to air is this one, and I quote,
Trump tried to win America over by showing Biden is nothing more than a decent family man who rebuts personal attacks leveled against his own children.
I'm Rajat Suresh.
I'm Jeremy Levick. Our guest, who was a sitting Congresswoman, Debbie Dingell. We said that we had uncovered the details on the new Democratic police reform bill. One really big difference, which is that whereas the Republican bill wants to encourage police accountability, the Democrats' bill wants to incentivize it.
Or wait. I think the Democrats want to encourage, and the Republicans want to incentivize, I think.
Yeah, so basically
okay.
swap that.
Or no, wait, actually, why don't you just swap it
No,
back?
I think we had it right the
other way
first
around.
time.
Swap it back.
What about these no-knock warrants?
Well, the Republicans want
They
to
want
limit
to those.
Interesting.
And the Democrats, on the other hand, completely changed it.
They said that's not nearly enough.
No.
We need to change the whole name of that.
Exactly. From no-knock warrant
And the new
to
name
door
is
bonk.
door bonk warrant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite joke that did not make air?
Hey, I'm Addison Anderson. It was hard to pick a favorite unaired joke because so many of our unaired jokes were about the accusations against JFL's founder, Gilbert Rozon. But I'm going to say I really loved a joke by Maureen Monahan when we were talking about what to ask Joe Arpaio. Her proposed question was, Sheriff Joe, is your wife still alive or is she scissoring your mother in hell?
My name is Jack Bensinger. My favorite bit that did not make the air was when Congressman and former U.S. Marine Seth Moulton, we were going to sing him the baseball song, but he couldn't stick around because his bathtub was flooding with human.
The sewer exploded, so just don't empty the tub. Oh my god, it smells terrible.
A joke that did not air that I enjoyed was a recent joke on the night one of the RNC, written by Addison Anderson, I believe, where he said, Donald Trump Jr., not known as an inspiring figure, even though he inspired his parents to try again with another kid.
We had on Ben and Jerry on our show Hot Take. Rajat pitched the concept that the way that they make the ice cream is that Ben sucks it out of Jerry and spits it into a bucket.
And thank you for viewing.
And we're back. I'm the producer of Tuning Out the News, Megan Rady. Joining me now are three writer-producers behind Tuning Out the News. First up is showrunner and the voice behind James Smartwood, RJ Freed.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, RJ.
Hi.
The head writer and voice behind James Smartwood Jr., Zach Smilowitz.
Where'd Zachy go?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
Let's see if we
I
can...
am here. Hello. Hi.
Hi. We just were waiting for your junior voice. And next up, we have supervising.
Wait, I can do it. I can do it real quick. Sorry. It's hello. Hi.
So basically the same voice.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, bring it on. And supervising writer and voice behind Tori Hughes, Naima Pierce.
Hi.
Hi there. Don't forget, if you want to submit a question, click the Ask a Question button on the show page on the festival website. And everybody, let's jump into your questions. We have a question from, it looks like LeJurel in Brooklyn. What is something you can do in animated newscasting that you can't do in live action? RJ.
Oh, that's actually the best part of the show, I would say, is we get away with so much because we're in an animated world.
I mean, it's like we have that South Park advantage where a lot of things that sound, I would say, terrible of a human face saying a cartoon can get away with much easier. And so I think we're in what is a very dark time able to go much darker than probably a human newscaster could ever go. The other thing too is like we get to add cartoon graphics. There was, I think one of my favorite ones was Congressman Ro Khanna, who is I would say much more on the like far left progressive side. Obviously, once Joe Biden won the nomination, he had to go back to the center and so endorse Joe Biden. And Zach here had a really funny idea about giving him the albatross around him, that he is now endorsed Joe Biden, and good luck going back to your progressive side and explaining that. And so we got to literally put an albatross on his shoulder. So that's something that I don't think Chuck Todd could do.
Entirely true.
How dare you? How dare you, Arch?
Sorry.
What do you think, Zach?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the integration of animation into live action footage is just, I think that was part of the thing that got this whole thing started. And I remember like Ezekiel Emanuel talking about how he was going to forego any unnecessary treatments after he was like 65 or something, and he wanted that to be a model. So he did a thing where we have a character on the show, Eleanor Palmer, who was in her 70s clearly, and he just started having his eyes bulge out of his head and his tongue roll out of his mouth like she was a steak that you were on a shipwreck on a raft. Yeah, exactly. So excited to possibly have another dead person.
I'm noticing that there's a lot of love in the comments for Eleanor today, I have to say. We have a question from Khalil in Windsor. Can you give
by the way.
Can you give an overview of the writing process for Tuning? Naima?
Oh boy. Well, the writing process starts with what's going on in the news that day. I used to work in cable news, and so it's a lot like that process where we are seeing what happened last night, what happened this morning, coming up for a rundown for the show, and then just kind of spinning out the actual news from there into jokes, into illustrations, into probably the zaniest scenarios that we can imagine. I think the best part of the show is being able to take all the metaphors that are just overused on cable news and be able to take them to a next level and animate them into something at times disgusting.
Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing about the process is just that whereas I think a lot of live action shows, you're basically married to the footage that you shot that day, we are constantly updating, we're constantly refreshing. We have an incredible research department that we're just always on top of whatever's happening. So we're doing refreshes up until a few hours before posting the show. So in some ways, animation is able to make us even more current than a live action show could.
That is so true. A question from Joe.
I know, right?
Yeah. A question from Joe in Toronto. Did you get a say in how your alter ego cartoon characters looked, or did they base it off of your creations?
Oh man, my guy is way more handsome than I am. James Smartwood. I actually did get a say though. I just wanted for that big news show. The premise of it is just the show looks great, the anchors look great. They have no idea what they're talking about, much like many actual news shows, and so wanted him to look handsome and smart, and because that's kind of the magic trick that I think the news pulls off a lot of time, is you assume because it looks good and there's people on camera that they're always going to be telling the truth or in good faith, and it's quite the opposite. So we wanted them to look very dignified. That goes with the whole style of the show. I should give credit here to Todd MacArthur, the art director, Tim Luecke as well, who's behind the animation, and just making it look as professional and cool as possible. Naima, did you weigh in on Tori Hughes?
I've never actually seen my cartoon character, but I assume it's identical.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think?
Hello.
Are there going to be any changes to the characters going forward? I noticed the glasses the other day on Smartwood. Do we think we're going to see those again?
Smartwood, obviously, it's a very serious time, and being someone always wants to be in the zeitgeist, he started wearing glasses last show. Unfortunately, he picked them up in Walgreens on the way there, and was extremely nauseous throughout the whole show. I don't know. We might stick with them. Zach, what was the inspiration behind James Smartwood Jr.'s look?
Well, I'm not sure. Did you bring up the fact that there are people walking around who look exactly like our characters somewhere?
No, please.
So
please,
this is.
please not.
So we wanted the look of the characters to be very lifelike. Yeah. We didn't want them to have we wanted them to look like almost like proportional and human. So we went to central casting and cast all of the characters with actors, and then Todd and his team and Steve was still there too, right? And it was we had everyone take 1 million reference photos. So somewhere in this world is James Smartwood Jr. and all of the other characters from the show, which is terrifying. And it really freaks me out that somebody would be watching the show and they went and took a picture one day 6 months ago, and now they're just on TV as a cartoon.
But these aren't famous references, right? These are kind of character actors out there in the world, right?
This was central casting. This was just
copy that.
Except for mine. Mine was Robert De Niro, which was.
And what about the background for you, Zach? What was the inspiration for the messy bedroom background?
Oh, I don't know how. I don't know necessarily. I don't know how I come from my parents are in television, and so I don't know how I was able to connect with someone who was whose parents were broadcast people. So, but it somehow spoke to me.
Well, there is that, like, obviously, like the news. There's a ton of nepotism. There's tons of anchors' kids who are now holding the microphone. You would like to think that it was a pure meritocracy that led him to that, but sometimes it isn't, and that's certainly the case for James Smartwood Jr. So I also think we like the idea of, like, he's just broadcasting from his bedroom, and Smartwood has no problem with that.
I think talent is hereditary.
Yeah.
I have a couple more questions from our audience. One from Michelle in Cleveland. How much news do you all consume per day?
A lot. We got a research team. Jerry Weed, John Neffel, Jonathan Van Halen, who are all just brilliant researchers, mostly come from news backgrounds. They're edgy. They don't take the news at face value. And they're constantly, we have a Slack channel throughout the day with breaking news, breaking elements. We have a research report every single morning. And it's constant. We want to make sure that, we actually, weirdly enough, even though it is a cartoon, we take our credibility pretty seriously, and want to make sure that our jokes are based on real information. And there's even a fact check at the end of each show, which is always hilarious after you have this like insane show happen, and then you'll get the Slack saying the fact check looked good for us, and it's like it just like all the jokes were true somehow. But that's just them going through and saying, hey, that information you put out there was right. We do take it very seriously. We make sure our guests are in context. Did I miss anything, Naima?
No, you didn't miss anything. I want to pile on to that. Our research team is so sharp and specific, and the smallest little details they're going to pull out either for our background information for when we're preparing for an interview. And we do a lot of preparation for talking to our guests. And then on the back end as well, when they're like, you might want to tweak this sentence to make it absolutely 100% correct rather than just 95% correct. Which
I should also, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I should also add, like, there's been, I think the most satisfying like tweets or articles we get is when they're better researched than some of the news shows. I think that's always what we're striving for, and hired a team that had that ability. They're damn good. Yeah.
I can say it's actually it's a bigger research team than a lot of news shows have. So certainly.
That's absolutely terrifying. That's the scariest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I think, yeah. Based on my experience. Another good question from Sonora in Baton Rouge. Is the show equal parts writing and improv?
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the guest. Well, no, RJ, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think you're right. Like, for example, Rick Wilson. It's like you got to have your homework done. Alan Dershowitz, you got to have your homework done. And there's some guests maybe that are more fun, which will lean into the improv. We won't be as tightly scripted, but we kind of calibrated appropriately. That said, it's like some of the best lines we hired improvisers. There's no one on the performance side who is just a pure voiceover performer. They're all improvisers. That was the audition was, hey, we're going to watch, a clip here and improvise as a character. And so you got to be able to think on your feet, and some of the best jokes come from performers. But I stepped on you. What were we going to say?
You didn't step on me at all. I think that it depends on the guest in a way where sometimes you'll get a really great guest that immerses themselves in the show. Renee Montgomery was one of them, where we had a show all written out, but she really played with our characters in a way where we improvised a lot of it because she was fun, she was engaging, and then it turned into more of a conversation.
Right.
And so that's another episode on the other end of the spectrum.
I should also mention, Zach and I, we used to work for Robert Smigel, who's the man behind Triumph the Install Comic Dog, and I mean, you want to talk to just Robert's process of making it, look spontaneous and improvised. It's a lot of preparation.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of it looks improvised with Robert too, and it's like he's holding 30 pages of jokes or whatever. And I think that having that cushion for the performers hopefully is allows them to feel the freedom to kind of go off and do something that's a little bit more character based or a little crazier. But yeah, I mean, I think that hopefully it feels like a natural blend of the two. I'm glad to hear that people aren't quite sure of where the improv ends and the writing begins, which I think is good.
Well, that actually begs a good question, which is, what are the other influences behind the show? Things that you have thought about, people you've admired that you kind of draw on occasionally, RJ?
I think we have to talk about Colbert Report. I mean, obviously, Stephen Colbert's a producer behind the show and responsible for its, so much of its comedic, creative, editorial instincts. That's a person who lived in a character, did it in such a way that was, both informative and a character that felt real too, that you could live with, long term. I think he has to be, obviously, that character and how they did it, and how smart it was, and how much they got away with, and how they entered the real world. I don't think there is a Tuning Out the News without Stephen Colbert, the Colbert Report. That said, Sacha Baron Cohen, we mentioned Robert Smigel, South Park,
Chuck Todd.
Chuck Todd. Is that the second Chuck? Can we get a Chuck Todd mention counter on the bottom?
Can we get
I'd like to
Chuck Todd in a fifth screen?
Yeah.
I used to supervise the scripts, guys. I'm going to write it down. That's great. So what would you say is the main goal of the show, if you had one going in creating it?
Zach, what's your goal?
I think that the goal was to do something where we could get a little bit of trouble and talk to people that really cartoon characters shouldn't be talking to, and ask them questions maybe the news doesn't ask them. And I think that's when it's at its most fun. I think it seems like there's no reason that Alan Dershowitz or Matt Schlapp or Senate. I mean, I think we're very lucky because we get to have people on and have fun and also talk about issues that are important to the people who make the show. So I think that hopefully that's what's coming across. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think there's definitely moments where, I think we want to, there's this polite society thing that happens in cable news, and this show is kind of, I think, constantly trying to burst through that and satirize the news. There is definitely a lot of moments, I think you're right, where you expect where you're talking to a senator or a governor, and you're waiting for someone to drag you out of your house and saying, you can't do this, you can't ask them these questions. So far it hasn't happened, but I think we're just trying to satirize the news and misinformation and hypocrisy and bad faith in all its forms, and honestly, and then some of the characters who populate the news, and so that's why it's kind of an ever-growing of cast of people that's going to be growing into next season too, and will continue to evolve.
I think it's also, when you're watching the news, and we want to put something out there that you aren't seeing when you're watching MSNBC or CNN or Fox News, and that's what our writers are really good at doing. They're coming up with the questions that anchors aren't asking. They're creating a different idea, like tons of ideas. I know this goes for every show, but our writers are putting together maybe 50 amazing ideas, and our audience only gets to see one of them. And we're doing that every day to things that are happening that morning, or maybe a half an hour ago in some instance. And I think we're just trying to look at things differently every single time.
We just got a viewer comment about how Arpaio seemed to just kind of ride through his interview, but have we ever had a guest who has actually threatened to walk off or walked off or been upset afterwards?
Not that we're going to say out loud, that's for sure.
We can't talk about it, but oh yeah.
It's happened. And we're not going to say who it is. I'll just be frank with all of you. It's just not going to happen. I will say this. It's only happened, I think, once. But there's obviously, we have these episodes that are, I would say, much more challenging for the guests. The vast majority of them probably aren't so. I think what's actually, there's a certain satisfaction to challenging perhaps Alan Dershowitz, certainly Joe Arpaio, in ways that they don't normally get challenged on cable news. There's also, every once in a while we'll have, but there's a lot more, I would say, like, I don't know, Jamel Hill stands out. People who are out there like doing really good things, and we get to be idiots, and they get to actually put out good information. There's something like so satisfying about that. We had an epidemiologist this past week, Senator Harry Reid this past week, who's doing some really good work. There's something really satisfying when we get to be the idiots, and it's actually a really good guest with good things to say. So every day is different. We try to choose the shows based on who the guest is and how we think it'll work. Some are just silly. Some we're trying to get good information. But yeah, I don't even remember what the original question was. Oh, has anyone walked off?
Anyone walked off? I do want to second that. I think that it was like the Justin Jackson interview sticks out in my mind as like something where we like had a conversation that was very real and very funny, and still we got a lot of important points out there. I do want to say also that when the person walked off, it was very funny. And that's abundantly clear to the audience.
Well, do they know?
Totally,
a lot of people say, like,
a
lot of people ask, like, do they know what they're getting into? They know everything. I mean, they know it's a cartoon. I mean, luckily, like, Colbert Report has educated the world on, like, you're going to be interacting with a guest, and, it's all, the thing that I think maybe the guests don't necessarily appreciate is that if you start arguing with a cartoon, you're going to look really silly. And that's always like the best when they start taking a cartoon seriously, because they don't they know what the cartoons look like, but they're not necessarily seeing the cartoon on their return monitor, and so they don't necessarily look. Anyone who's getting upset with a cartoon is always good. I mean, the same way Triumph with a puppet, or Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat. There's always a certain level of, it's just a character you're talking to. Don't take it so seriously. So it's just a natural, like, we try to keep, when we're editing it, try to keep the guest on the picture as much as possible. It's just, the contrast is always just so wonderful.
Absolutely. Okay, another great question from Brenda in Minnesota. The show is so COVID friendly. Was this always the plan, or did you have to pivot?
Megan, do you want to take that one? What we've had to do?
We very dramatically had to pivot, I have to say. I walked into this show to cover a brilliant producer, Nicole Savini's maternity leave, and in this process, I've been just absolutely blown away by the ways in which the show had already pivoted before I came on, which included that the entire staff is remote and spread out all over the country. We're all checking in with each other via Zoom. We're producing the show via Zoom Studio every single day. So all of our tech folks are working from their living rooms. We have very little access to any building. And if we do, we have a COVID monitor during that period of time. And there are efficiencies built into that. In some ways, it actually works better, and that I feel like our communications can be very immediate, despite we're kind of getting used to it. But you of course are missing the water cooler moments day to day. But the writer's room is functioning obviously virtually every day, and you can speak to that writing aspect of the show. But I would say the animating is also extraordinary. These are, tens of people working from their living rooms to get the show on air every single night, and we're so deeply grateful for that ability to do this way.
Yeah, I gotta shout out to Brian Maffett and our tech crew. I mean, we're lucky that this show is so digitally based as it was, so that when COVID hit, we had all the right minds in the building already to make it happen. The show already was something like a topical daily animated news show, was already something that hadn't been done before, and within 2 weeks they were able to do that thing and do it also remotely. You just saw live animated characters having a Q&A, something that's never been done before. And they figured it out. They're pretty extraordinary. But yeah, we are now completely remote, and it's so far we're so fortunate. We have this beautiful animated world that is not as affected by COVID, and so we can get away with it. Yeah, been very fortunate.
Some of our wealthier cartoon characters have retreated to their summer homes.
That's true.
Yeah. Big thanks to all of the people who are making it happen behind the scenes every single day, including those who have helped us get on air today. So speaking of all of this, how can you walk through how you did the live animation, how we did the live animation just now? That was a first time doing that for us. And RJ, Zach, Naeem, take a stab at walking through how we actually get that done.
Computers.
I think
it's computers, right?
Yeah, they have a lot. We didn't thank the computers, which we should have done really at the top, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we have puppeteer, we have animators who are actually in remote areas who are controlling the puppets, performers. It's for those 4 characters on screen, it is a team of 40, 50 people behind it. It's truly amazing. They're very cool people, and we couldn't do the show without them. They're telling us to wrap, Megan. They want us out of here.
Okay, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much to Just for Laughs, our entire crew, Olivia, Nuzzi, and our cast and producers. Thank you very much. I have not been told to wrap, so I'm continuing on for the next
Keep going. Let's talk about our day.
Please watch Tuning Out the News on All Access, on CBS All Access, and check us out on all our social platforms as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, Just for Laughs. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, it's me again, Randy Feltface. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for tuning in. You can learn more about the charity that the show has chosen to spotlight by clicking on the link on the show page. Don't forget that if you missed any part of the show or it clashed with something else you want to watch, that everything is available to watch on demand until Sunday night on the festival website. All for free. So get out there, watch and enjoy.